Hi friends, it's Amy here. Now in this lesson, your students, your children are going to be working on representing four-digit numbers. Now there are a couple of tools that we can use to represent four-digit numbers. We'll talk about both of those. These are both very, very helpful to help students visually see the place value for each one of those numbers. First of all, and what I absolutely love are base 10 blocks. Now, you're not going to just use these. Students won't just use these for representing numbers. They're also going to use them when we start adding and subtracting. So they're going to be a great, great tool, something you might consider purchasing to have at your home. If that's something you're interested in, there's a link down below for a couple of different options of sets that you could purchase through Amazon. So first of all, when we're looking at base 10 blocks, we have a cube. A cube represents 1,000. This is what the cube actually looks like. Again, it's so important for students to visually see, why is this 1,000? Well, it's made up of 1,000 little cubes. We can see 10 by 10, so 100 in this layer, and there's 10 of those layers. So that's your 1,000, your base 10 cube that represents 1,000. Next, they're going to have the flat. It looks flat, represents 100. So if you're looking at the flat, you can see it's made up of 100 cubes. You can see 10 by 10. So we've got 100 cubes there. And then next, we're going to have the rods. The rods represent 10. Here's a rod. I can't hold it up in the FaceTime because I've got a green screen. It won't show up. So this rod represents 10. They could count this and see that it's 10 of those little cubes. And then finally, in your base 10 blocks, you have your unit cubes, and your unit cubes represent 1. So it's 1 there. So they can visually see how this is 1, and it's 1 of the little cubes in the rod, which is 10. So again, these base 10 blocks are going to be so helpful throughout this journey because it's so important to students. Some students really need to put their hands on and see the number 10 and see that in a number, if I had 3 tens, I could show it with 3 of my rods. So anyway, that's one thing they're going to use to represent four-digit numbers. The next thing is a place value chart where they'll write the digit that is in each one of those place values. All right, so let's look at what they're doing today. So today, what they'll do, first of all, they're going to recognize what a four-digit number is by looking at pictures of some base 10 blocks. So again, that's why if you have the real thing, they can look at the pictures, make the connection. I have 3 of these cubes. So I have 3,000s. I have 3 of these flats. So we have 300s. I have 4 of the rods here. So I've got 4 tens. And then I have 9 of the ones, 9 of those little unit cubes. They keep getting away from me. So there we go. 9 of those. So we have 9 ones. Okay. Now, here's another thing. Sometimes I can tell you, students do not like it when we're missing something. So you definitely want to practice with them. And sometimes there's 0 in a certain place value. Because we see here, we've got 1,000. What are we missing? We don't have any of the flats. That is okay. I used to, when I taught high school and my students didn't like it when 0 is the answer, I would say 0 wants its time to be in the spotlight also. So there's no hundreds, so we put a 0 there. So make sure students understand, because sometimes they're tempted to look and go, okay, well, next we have our tens. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 tens. Sometimes they're tempted to just put it in the next place value. This is why it's so important to make the connection. A 10 rod, there's 8 tens. It says hundreds. I don't have any hundreds flats. And then finally, we have 4 ones. Now, the vocabulary that your students, your children students, your children are students, that they're going to be working on is standard form, expanded form, and word form. Okay, so standard form is just the number written out. Expanded form, it's where we look at each one of the numbers in the place value and we write that out as an addition expression. Super important for them to make that connection that we have to put the plus sign in here because we would have to add all of those up to get 2,183. Now, in the word form, pretty much when you read it from standard form, that's going to be the word form. Now, when you're practicing with your students, some really good technique when they're writing and saying these words, avoid using the word and when reading a number or writing a number in word form. I know sometimes we're tempted to say 2,183. It's not that it's incorrect, but and will be using the word and will be really important when the students get into decimals. It's going to be really important then to help connect. That's when we're switching, from whole number to a decimal. So good habit to get in when we're reading numbers, avoid using the word and. So read this 2,183. Read this one 1,084. Okay, so then the main thing students will be doing in this lesson today is they're going to be practicing taking a number from standard form to writing it in expanded and word form, or taking it from one of those forms and going back to standard form. So one thing to have students think about is when we see a word in standard form, how could we use a place value chart to write the word in expanded form and a word form? Now listen, your students may not need this. Your children may not need to write. They may just get it and say, all right, I know that this is 3,000 plus 100 plus, I don't have any tens, 5. This is the thing, a lot of the frustration people feel sometimes with the new ways that we're teaching math is, why do we have to do this? Well, if they don't need this place value chart, that's okay. We want them to understand how to use it. It's a great tool if I have a student or a child that's really struggling making the connection to write it in expanded form, then it's great to have this place value chart to say, okay, what's my number in my thousands place? Oh, okay, it's a 3. What's my number in my hundreds place? It's a 1. What's the number in the tens place? It's a 0. What's the number in the ones place? It's a 5. So some students may need this number. So then when they write it out in word form, again, 3,000. We use a comma after 3,000, but then the rest of it is just written out. 105. Again, avoiding using the word and. 3,105. All right, so I've included, you can print out this notes guide if you want to, if you would like it for some reason. I'll also have a notes guide for the student video. There's a student video that goes through basically everything we just talked about, but very much slower in a very kid-friendly method. So you're welcome to print. The students also has a notes guide if you wanted to print them out. Now, what I've also included here is, and you can print this out below, is a paper where you can write a number in standard form, expanded form, word form. Again, I put the place value chart here in case they need it to really make that connection from standard form to those other two forms. Now, something fun you might consider doing is do a 4-digit, 1,000th number scavenger hunt around your house. I'm telling you, it's tricky. I looked all through my pantry and I found all kinds of things with 3 digits, but I struggled with finding 4 digits. The best I could do is on this little puffs tissue that I have here. I was like, well, I guess I could use the last 4 digits of that phone number, 8,337. That was about the best I could do. So this is a fun way to continue the learning and engaging. Look for them around your house. If you're out and about at a restaurant, and look around. Do you see any 4-digit numbers anywhere? When you're shopping, do you see 4-digit numbers? Great way to just continue to reinforce that 4-digit number with no decimals is 1,000. So I've got a little extra sheet just in case you wanted to do like a fun little scavenger hunt. and to continue to practice with 4-digit numbers. Place value is so important that they grasp this understanding of place value. Everything out now is going to build on it when we're adding numbers, when we're subtracting numbers, when we're multiplying. So important for them to build this basic conceptual understanding. All right, my friends. So I hope that those are some things that can help you help your students, and see you around in the next one.